Hello, it's Taylor Johnson with Keller Williams Capital Properties, and I'm here today interviewing Aaron Bell, whom I've known for a number of years, actually. And he is a lender with the Tom Gaffney team at First Heritage Mortgage. So, Aaron, tell us a bit about yourself and First Heritage, please.
I've been in the mortgage business for about 6 or 7 years now. Just kind of started as a processor, working my way up to a loan originator. So I know the whole process from start to finish. So pretty knowledgeable and can help first-time home buyers with any sort of tricky loans get done.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm sure that's been very helpful knowing how the back end works.
Exactly. So definitely helps a lot.
Awesome. And so we were going to talk today about purchase home assistance programs in Virginia. So, you know, it's a high cost area. What is available to buyers in Virginia to help them with down payment and closing costs?
So pretty much there's Virginia Housing. They used to be called VHGA. They recently just changed their name. Pretty much when you buy a house, you need about 3.5% to 3% down. So VHG or Virginia Housing is willing to cover up to, if you get a grant, it's 2% for a conventional loan of the sales price. And if it's a FHA loan, they'll do 2.5% of the sales price, and that'll cover your closing costs. And then there's also like a second trust, which is like a second mortgage. And depending on your credit score, you can get 3.5% up to 4.5% covered. So typically, if you're able to get the second trust, you need to bring about 1% to closing. And then if the seller's willing to cover some closing costs, you might even get a check back to you at the closing table.
Really? That's great. So you could you could combine the grant and the first trust and get both closing cost and down payment help?
Yep. So just depending on what you're looking for. So some people have some cash, but they're looking to get closing costs covered. So that would be like more towards the grant side, where some people are a little bit shorter on cash. So that's when I would suggest the second trust, because it's going to be able to cover a lot more of the cost. It just kind of depends on the situation. I like to hear like what they're looking for. And then I'll just suggest, all right, well, in that situation, I would suggest going with the grant, or this one, I would suggest going with the second trust.
Right.
So.
Okay. And I would imagine that there are income limits and purchase or max loan limits, right?
Yep. So it's based on household income. So the more family members you have, the higher the household income will go up. I think they recently changed it. I'll have to look at the exact amount, but typically it's like 132 or something for like 1 to 2 people.
Okay.
Typically it's more than that. The income limit is good enough to get a new family in a house. So.
Right. And what about the purchase price or max loan?
So they might have just changed it I know last year was 525 sales price. And pretty much if you go over that, you just have to bring the difference in cash. But I'd say normally people are staying under that amount. I've only probably ran into it one time where they went over.
Yeah, it's hard, I think, when you're bumping up against the limit.
Yeah, exactly.
So have you found in your experience that these loans take longer to close, or are they competitive with others in terms of closing time?
So we're actually delegated, so we can get it approved in-house. So we're a little bit faster than most companies that can do it. So like normally I'd say you need about 45 days, but we can do it in 30 days if needed, if like that's gonna make or break someone getting a house. So we're happy to accommodate that. So that's a little bit, that's what like kind of separates us on those VHGA deals, is that we're approved already to do it in-house. So it's a little bit faster and easier for everybody.
That's a tremendous asset for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, in today's market, being able to close quickly can make or break the deal for sure.
Exactly. So I've been at places where I'd have to say I need 45 days to do it, but here I can say, well, if you need us to do 30 days, we can make that happen. Everyone's got to be on the same page and be ready to move fast.
All right. Awesome. And are there any other restrictions or things that folks should know about as they're going into this program?
I mean, just strictly primary residence. So obviously not going to let an investor take advantage of any of these programs. Need to live in the house for a certain amount of years. you can do a mortgage credit certificate, which kind of helps with the tax at the end of the year.
Can you
That's-
explain that?
Yeah, so pretty much it's like, I think the exact amount. I just know you get a good amount of credit deducted on your taxes, and it's very helpful.
It's almost double, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. So it definitely helps. There's like a recapture tax if your wealth jumps a good amount in the next couple of years, but typically it's not really happening where you're like creating your wealth like 7 times the amount as today.
Right.
I mean, good for you if you can do that.
Yeah, then you've got other issues to worry about.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
And shoot, I had a question. Okay, so what would you say is sort of like the ideal candidate for one of these programs?
I'd say someone who's just like been renting for a while and like, trying to explore buying a house, and they're like, oh, I don't have 20% down. Well, it's like, you don't need 20% down anymore. Just if you can plan to have 1%, you should be okay to buy a house. And then just kind of, I'd say planning ahead. So I wouldn't say go tomorrow and try to do a VHTA loan. I would say, talk to me 3 months in advance so we can make a plan. Like, all right, this is the price you want. This is how much you need to save by that time. So, and I think someone that's just, kind of tired of renting and is trying to buy a house, and we'll make it work. Just be
Right.
optimistic.
So there's a little bit of matching in here for the ideal situation, right? You can also potentially get all of it paid for, but ideally you have some cash to bring to the table and then
Yeah.
you're getting assistance for the rest.
Exactly.
Okay, excellent. I think that's about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a great program, and I've been doing a lot of them this year, so I've learned a lot more. So I can like kind of fit profiles better on what people need. Where when I first started, I was like, oh, I might have to ask someone. But now I'm like, oh, well, if you're looking for this, then I would definitely go this option. So I think it helps buyers, because buying a house is kind of overwhelming. So if you give someone 10 options, they're gonna be like, I don't know which one to go with. But now I can be like, all right, you want the lowest cost? All right, this is the best option. This is the second best, and then they can kind of go from there.
Right. Okay. So that is a question. So the interest rate is probably a little bit higher on maybe the grant versus the loan. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. And pretty much I just try to explain it like, are you looking to bring less cash to the table? Because if you bring less cash, you probably get a higher rate. So if you're bringing your own money, typically it comes with a lower rate. So it's just like, but you'll notice the payment differences aren't that different from getting the second trust or getting a grant. So I'm like,
yeah,
do you still need furniture when you move in the house? You don't want to move in your house and you can't buy any couches or anything. You just sit on the floor. So
yeah.
I always remind people about it's pretty expensive, and there's some costs that you're not going to think about until you're in the house. So save some money.
Owning the house has its own expenses, right?
Yeah.
But
so
often folks don't think about getting to the ownership piece.
Yeah. Everything else, like I'm in the house, but I don't have any money to buy stuff.
That's what you call house rich and cash poor, right?
Yeah, exactly. So.
Okay. Now, do the counties offer programs on top of the Virginia program?
Yeah, so you can actually, you can kind of like Google what county it's, because Prince William has some other grant programs. So you can combine a bunch of different grants together. But it's definitely by county. So you can Google like first time home buying in like Prince William County, and you'll find a list of different items and different options that you can kind of combine together. So combine like 2 different grants, and just, it's pretty interesting what you can find by just Googling now.
Yeah. Well, and we certainly encourage folks to do their homework and read about these programs.
Right? I'll learn from people like, oh, I didn't even know about that. And then I'll learn something else to add to help someone else out. So.
Right. And have you found that the county program takes longer for settlement, or are we competitive?
Yeah, that adds a little bit more time, because it's now it's outside Virginia Housing, where we're using another agency with Virginia Housing. So that definitely takes a little bit more time.
Okay. So just something to consider, right? If each deal is going to be its own thing as we put together packages to make sure.
Because some sellers aren't in a rush. So then they're like, yeah, I'm fine with closing in 45 days or 60 days. And then that's where you're lucky to find that seller.
Exactly.
Most are like, oh no, I gotta close in the next 30 days. So
Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, thanks for this overview. I think it's been very helpful. What is the best way for folks to reach you?
I have a application link, so you can either click like what kind of questions you have, or you can just do the application online, and I can kind of pull your credit and just, I can just analyze like, hey, maybe your credit score is not high enough, but you said you're not buying for 6 months. I can like run an analyzer and suggest what they can do to get their scores up by the time they're ready to buy. And that kind of makes plans. So there's people that I talked to a year ago that I gave a plan for 12 months, and now their credit's now up. So now they're like in the market to buy. So it's just cool to see, like, it's like a full, like, I've known someone for a year now, just working with them, and now they're going to be able to buy a house. So
right.
It's really,
that's a
exciting.
really rewarding feeling.
Yeah, seriously. Those are the good ones.
Yeah,
like those
exactly.
ones.
So where do folks find that link?
So I can send it to you in an email, but if you just go to like First Heritage, and my profile is like one of the top ones, because AA is always first. So just click on me, and you can do like one where it's just like an inquiry where maybe you're not ready to have your credit pulled, but you just want to ask some questions, and I can just set up a call. Or if you're ready or just want to see what your credit report looks like, that's when you do the full application. And I would put your credit and see what it looks like.
Okay, great. Well, thanks very much for your time. And I'm Taylor Johnson with Keller Williams Capital Properties, part of the Garcia team. And I'm a realtor here. I am licensed in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And the best way to reach me is my mobile, 202-763-2483, or my email, taylor@ngarcia, ENGGARCIA.com. Thanks again, Aaron. We'll be back in touch.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye.
See you.